Welcome to the GAME.minder Report, your weekly source of upcoming gaming news and information, brought to you this week by Reminder. It's March 6th, and the GAME.minder Report starts now. Jimmy P, how you feeling this week, buddy?
I'm feeling much better. I finally got caught up with the old winter cold. It wasn't brutal, like a summer cold. Because summer colds are brutal.
Yep.
That's my worst Nathan explosion ever. But yeah, had a sinus, whatever. But back in the saddle again, as
Right on.
Aerosmith once said.
Yeah, I'm referring, of course, to the fact that there was no real episode last week. We did do an interview with yours truly and Alan from Old Man Bitter Girl, but it came to Wednesday night. We sat down to do it, and Jim was like, "Yeah, I don't think I can do it, buddy."
Yeah,
and I was like, "All right, fair enough. So we will just sort of skip it." So we're back.
Yeah.
Anything happened this week?
Yeah, there's some stuff in the news. It's a lot of so big games came out.
A couple big ones.
Yeah, a lot of people are liking the new Tomb Raider.
Yes, I've heard overall positive reviews. I'm not going to play it myself.
Yeah, but at least it's out there. Tomb Raider is always just that was one of those. I hate to say it, but Tomb Raider is I'm in college game where I have an hour and a half to kill. I don't have any friends online, so I'm just gonna play Tomb Raider.
Yeah, honestly, my favorite memory about Tomb Raider is actually from the TV show Spaced.
Yes.
Where he's basically just like, he's mad and he keeps drowning her.
Yeah.
And they're like, I heard him swearing at you last night. She's like, oh no, that was Lara Croft. You should watch Spaced. If you haven't watched Spaced, you should watch it.
Yes, even though it's like set like from 1997 to 2000, England. I'm
gonna go out on a limb that anyone who actually enjoys this show would probably enjoy Spaced.
Yeah.
Here's the quick pitch, since it's not a game thing. But Spaced is by the guys who did Hot Fuzz, Shaun of the Dead. It's that whole crew, and it's
Simon
hilarious.
Pegg, Frost. You're forgetting
Edgar Wright,
the Alien.
Oh yeah, Paul. Well, but Paul was the two actors. It wasn't the same director. So that's why Edgar Wright is the director.
Right.
And then
the trilogy, the third movie, is supposed to come out this year.
It is.
Yeah.
The World's End, I think it's called.
Did my video just pop in and out?
A little bit.
Interesting.
You'll be all right.
All right.
So here's what I want to talk about before we get into the other big game that came out this week. I want to talk a little bit, because honestly, I know you're not a PlayStation guy, but if I've ever wanted you to be a PlayStation guy, this would be it. Because there was just a new trailer released for the new God of War Ascension, which shows off the sort of multiplayer, what's it called? Challenge of the Gods mode or whatever. And it looks pretty sweet.
Now I talked about how gimmicky and things like that, and there's one thing I forgot to mention, and I'm pretty sure it'll probably be in the new God of War. But if you remember, it was either Drake Uncharted or one of those. When the 6-axis, they made a level where you had to like teeter totter with the controller back and forth, and they kind of ruined the flow of the game.
I think that was Uncharted. Yeah, I think that was Uncharted.
I bet any money that God of War has something where all of a sudden the game stops and you have to do something on the touchpad for no reason other than you have to do something on the touchpad.
Well, this is God of War Ascension, which is coming out for the PS3 in like 2 weeks.
Oh.
So yes, I think maybe the next one might have that. But this one is new, and it's not as new as that. It's going to come out in a couple weeks for PS3. And honestly, it's one of those things where God of War, I think the first one was, I don't think it was PS1. I think the first two were on the PS2, and then the third one came out on PS3, and it was like a couple years into the cycle, so it was way better, and it was like, oh my god, this is amazing. Look at what this looks like. And now I think this fourth one now is really going to sort of use, we're coming to the very end of the PlayStation 3 life cycle. They're going to wring every last bit of performance out of this machine that they can, because they've had the whole life cycle to optimize it. I think it's going to look amazing.
You're forgetting that PS2 games finally stopped being made like 2 months ago, right?
I'm not forgetting that.
Then saying that this is ringing the last, you're not even near.
I'm saying it is for the big guys. It is. The next God of War is not going to come out on PS3.
No, but they'll still be Madden, which is a huge game,
which was just added to GAME.minder this week.
There you go. So Trust me, I think there's going to be a lot of moisture in that cloth before you really have to wring it out.
Fair enough.
For a whole while.
All right, so let's talk about another throwback remake, and that is, of course, Simcity.
Yes.
Simcity, the new Simcity. I don't know if it's actually got a number like Simcity 12 or something, but Simcity, the new version, just came out this week. And well, actually, I should mention this too, because we're putting it in the coming out soon links at the end, because there's a perfect example of some of the new stuff you can do with GAME.minder. It came out in the USA, in North America, just this last week, but it comes out in the EU in a couple of days. You can actually now track those separately in GAME.minder. Hint, hint, plug. So, anywho, it came out.
We should have a sound effect every time we self-gloss ourselves.
Yeah, every time we try to tell someone, you should not only just be listening to our show, but you should also be using our app.
And then bonus points, if you're somehow we figure it out that if you're using GAME.minder while listening to the podcast, you get a prize.
An achievement.
I come to your house and high five you.
There you go. So SimCity came out, and one of the problems, and to be fair, a lot of people knew this was going to be a problem with SimCity going in, and people have been complaining about it for months, is that it requires an always-on internet connection. Not because it's a multiplayer game, and not just when you log in to make sure that you're, legal, but literally an always-on connection, even when you're playing. One of the major features is it can be multiplayer. Like, you can have several cities sort of in a online region that can interact with one another, and that's neat. But even if you're just setting up your own region, you just want to play with your own city in one place, you still have to be always online.
And why is that?
Because they're paranoid, I guess. Now, in and of itself,
so is it? Would this be classified under the DRM?
It would be. It would be. But here's the thing: this would be simply onerous by itself. But the fact that they can't seem to get their servers to work has made it way, way worse. And what that means is that there are people reporting getting the game, installing it, launching it, and then being put in a queue where it'll say 2 hours before you can play. Because the servers are like full of people and they're running out of slots, and they didn't plan. I guess they didn't plan ahead. I don't know. But so as a result, people just simply cannot play this game because, and again, it's not like they're offline or they're on an airplane and they're like, oh, whoops, I forgot. They're literally doing everything they're supposed to do, but the servers won't let them.
Right. And no one has been innocent of this. It's happened with Apple, with ME and the iCloud and other things.
Yeah.
It's happened with, Microsoft when the Xbox Live, first was hitting its stride. And we talked about it last week when the PlayStation 4 was going to be an always on. People test the testing environment is in a intranet setting on a probably 100 gigabit switch. It is not real world and the least bit.
Well, and you would think that someone like EA would be smart enough to know, right?
Really?
I mean, they're EA.
Because EA has a great track record of doing everything correctly. And
I'm not saying they have a good track record. What I'm saying is they certainly have the money and the resources to make this not be broken. All they needed to do was do it.
Did it hit the projected date?
Yeah, I think
all
so.
EA cares about.
Yeah, that's true.
It's all they care about. It hit the date. Good, we got your money. We'll figure it out. That's EA. It's always been. I stopped playing sports games just because of EA. I loved it when 2K Sports started coming up. And like, for instance, I won't play a football game, and baseball and hockey and basketball, I'll only play 2K. And I think actually basketball's gone now. But I boycott EA as much as possible.
Believe me, I'm in the same boat with you. I think what's interesting about this, and this is what Kuchera over at Penny Arcade Report was talking about, is the fact that this has actually thrown an interesting wrench in the ability to actually review the game. Not because the pre-sale people, the embargoed people, which we talked about on the last episode, those people can still play because they played it before the glut and before it became a huge issue. But how do you review a game where the gameplay is good, the concept is good, the release went well, but people just simply can't play? How does that affect the review score?
You're absolutely right. Well, here's something else that's kind of funny, and I'm just throwing this out there, but Chris Kluwe, he is a punter for the Minnesota Vikings, but he's very very loud, very intelligent. Talks very, more left leaning, but he's just, if you could follow him on Twitter, he's a great follow too. If that's
Okay.
the type of thing that you'd be interested in. Anyway, he's a gamer, but he was saying about how EA also is censoring you too, because it's always on. It knows the name of the cities that you're naming, so it asterisks out things like, he tried to do Poopy Pants City, and it asterisked it out.
Okay.
Now, I mean, that's kind of weird that we're getting in this now. We're really getting into this 1984 George Wellian type, Orwellian type.
George, I like that you said George Wellian.
Yeah, you like that?
That's awesome.
You like that? Yeah.
I don't know that I necessarily have as big a problem with that, because like I said, cities in this in general can be public, and if they're going for that sort of, younger demographic, they have to do at least a little bit of that. I'm with you on the concept that, like, if you actually want to play the game by yourself, you should pretty much be allowed to do whatever you want. And to be fair, this is not news. Like, this was everybody knew this is what was going to happen with this game when it came out. And people, like I said, have been complaining about it for months. It's just the fact that it's finally arrived, and it's actually worse than we thought it was going to be, I think, is what's been sort of causing the uproar this week.
Yeah. EA's slogan should be EA, deal with it.
Yeah, pretty much. All right, let's talk about our sponsor this week. So the Game.minder report this week is brought to you by Reminder and Reminder Pro Plus. What could be kinder than a friendly reminder? To say thanks 500,000, Reminder Pro is on sale through Friday for more than half off. One of the simplest ways to set yourself a quick reminder on your phone or iPad with repetition options from minutes to years. Reminder is celebrating its 500,000th download this week by slashing the price of the Pro Plus version from $7.99 to $2.99 and the in-app Pro add-on from $2.99 to just 99 cents. With more than 100 icons and 100 unique sounds, there has never been a better time to remember.
Now, real quick about that app Reminder.
Yeah.
I am now a salesperson working for the man. I am, and I'm knee deep in Microsoft, Outlook and Microsoft World.
Yeah.
So I'm using a lot of the calendar, and luckily it does sync. But Reminder is really awesome for those really quick, like, call back John from custom services at 4. Sure, if I have a big meeting like next Thursday, okay. But like for those really quick one-offs, the Reminder has been working awesome for me.
I use it mainly for when I gotta take my pills because I'm getting old.
Mm-hmm.
And I also have a preset one that has a little guy running, and its preset title is Time to Bounce. And so if I ever know it's like, oh, I've got to be somewhere at some time, I'll just tap that one, set it for 20 minutes before I got to go, and then I just forget about it. And then I don't ever have to remember when I have an appointment. It just lets me know, oh, time to bounce.
Right on, right on.
So yeah, it's a great little app.
Yes, and we're not biased.
We're not biased at all.
No.
Alrighty, so two more items I wanted to get to before we start talking about the games of the week. First off, I wanted to talk about, and this is actually going to be my game of the week too, so I'll just go ahead and mention it now. And that is a game called At the Gates. And this game, it's got a Kickstarter going right now, and it is being built by the guy who was the lead designer for Civilization 5, which, so obviously now you know why I'm interested in this game.
Mm-hmm.
And it's basically kind of like a Civilization game, but it's got two unique twists. One, you don't play as a civilization, you play as the barbarians.
Okay.
Like, it takes place sort of during Roman times, and the whole goal basically is to build your barbarian tribe in such a way as to take over and vanquish the Romans.
Mm-hmm.
But its sort of real innovative twist is the fact that it's actually going to have seasons built into the way that the game works. So like the way that a Civ 5 now works is like you'll sit down and start on a brand new planet. You'll explore the planet, but the planet sort of stays pretty static as it grows. You learn where new things are in terms of like iron or horses, but it doesn't actually change. What's actually going to happen in this game is that as the seasons progress, you'll need to like plant crops when it's not freezing. Or, if you try to start an invasion and it's like summertime, your people could actually get sort of caught up in like a desert and run out of food. And that will change sort of dynamically as the game progresses. So I backed it on Kickstarter. It's coming for a variety of platforms. It's coming for Mac, PC, so Windows and Linux on PC. I believe there's even going to be an iOS version. And I just wanted to mention that because I heard a thing about it on another podcast that I listened to. I heard an interview with the guy, and it really does sound like it's right up my alley as a Civilization guy.
Sounds good.
You're not a Civilization guy?
I actually no, I haven't really gotten into it. I played it and I like it. I liked it every time I played it. I actually, really got into uh, the what was it? That Rome is War game.
Oh
It's
yeah,
a
yeah, Total
Civ
War.
like, but it had some RTS things to go along with it. It's just that I've never really, I had the ability. I didn't really have the ability to just play it on a laptop or anything like that at night.
Mm.
So there you go.
Yeah, well, and your sensibilities have always been far more RTS oriented anyway. So having like a mix of those two was probably a pretty good
Yeah,
thing for
it was
you.
fun.
That's good because I think there's a game coming out this week that you're going to be interested in then, being
Oh,
a former RTSer. That would be StarCraft 2 Heart of the Swarm.
yes.
Ooh, we'll talk about that in a minute.
Okay.
The last thing I did want to talk about before we get into all that is, once again, of course, the GameMinder Expo. Now, the GameMinder Expo is next weekend, and it is here in Cleveland. It's at the Launch House where I'm recording this right now, and it's going to be a gathering of game developers, gamers, a bunch of local business types, just to sort of celebrate the games industry and how we might grow it here in Cleveland. Tickets are on sale now, and we think it's going to be a really good time, so you should come.
Yeah, we're gonna do a live podcast. Well, I mean,
That's
live
right.
as in we're gonna
Yep.
have a live studio audience.
That's
Uh,
yes. Game Minder Report
and
recorded in front of live studio audience.
yeah, that's definitely has to be before we do the music. We have to do that.
Definitely.
Um, so no, it's gonna be fun. I may, maybe people need insurance for their gaming companies. I can help them out with that.
Nice, nice.
There you go.
Very good, very good. Oh, there
Uh,
was actually the one last thing that we want to talk about, which is the microtransactions thing.
Yeah, I mean the biggest thing right now is Real Racer. Technically, and I'll put this in the show notes, but in Real Racer to unlock everything, if you wanted the page to unlock everything, it would cost you $503.22.
Seems reasonable.
Really? I know you're being, but like
I'm
I'm
being
saying really
facetious.
to the people that made Real Racing 3. Like,
Is it free to play or is it like a $60 game and then that's on top of it?
no, it's an iPad game. It's
It's an
Real
iPad
Racer. Like
game.
Real
Okay.
Racer has been the like racing game for the iPhone and iPad.
Now, is there a path to unlock all that simply by playing the game?
Yeah, but you can only play it like every 2 hours before like or I think it's like every hour before like it says
Oh,
like
it's one of those. I
yeah
got it.
like
Okay.
it's almost bringing back the arcade where you have to put in 2 more quarters to
Right.
because you didn't hit the time right and you can never hit the time right.
Hmm. Yes, well, I know that some of this came out because someone from, not surprisingly, EA was quoted as saying that all of their games moving forward were going to have microtransactions. And they have since backed off of that and basically said, no, 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 no. We didn't mean all our games everywhere. We just literally meant all of our free to play games for mobile. But I think it's pretty obvious that this idea of microtransactions, I mean, we've talked about it before, the Project $10 that happened, with games like Mass Effect and all the others, where it was like, look, we're charging $60 for our games, people are selling them used, we got to find a way to turn that down, and so we're going to add this thing where when you first open the game, you bought it for $60, you got to put in a code. If you resell that game, certain amount of content is just going to be cut off, that someone will have to do an in-app purchase to give us another $10 so that we can make something back from these used games. And I think this is just leaning more towards that same thing. It's just free to play, microtransactions, bleed as much money as we can out of the gamers, period.
Whatever. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what to say because we're still gonna, think you sir may have another.
Yeah.
There really isn't going to be a big revolt. Maybe something will happen on the mobile end. It's not going to happen on the consoles.
Well,
It,
unless something like an Ouya changes the game. But again, Ouya is very much embracing the sort of free to play. The games are not going to be $60. They're just going to be free to play to try, and then you can in-app purchase the full version or whatever.
I have a feeling, and I know this is going to bust your little Ouya bubble. I have a feeling that Ouya is going to not embrace it, but facilitate microtransactions more than it will curb it.
Well, it depends on what you mean by facilitate and curb. If it facilitates good gameplay at reasonable prices, I don't care if that happens via microtransactions or not. What I see as being the bigger problem here is the idea of a company selling me a $60 game and then expecting me to spend another $20 to $30 on top of it. You know, it started with things like map packs for Halo and all that kind of crap. But if it ends up being literally like you just said with Real Racer, like imagine if Real Racer was a console game and it was $60 and then it also had all this time limited stuff. That I think is the sort of dystopian future people are worried about.
No, I think what's going to happen is Ouya is going to be full of freemium games that, you know, to actually get the full game, you would spend $503.
Yeah, I think that's possible.
I feel like there's going to be a proliferation of those versus buy our $8 game and it's free. Right. I mean, it's not free, but it's all there. You just unlock it when you beat the level, but it's all there.
Yeah, well, yet to be seen. All right, so let's talk about what's coming out this week. As I mentioned earlier, SimCity out in North America, coming out in the EU within the next couple of days. We've got StarCraft 2, Heart of the Swarm, Sniper, Ghost Warrior 2, name's getting longer, Castlevania, Lords of Shadow, Mirror of Fate. And then we've got
tomorrow?
Hyperdimension Neptunia Victory. And finally, one that I know is very close to Jimmy P's heart. Kersploosh! It's a 3DS game. I actually hear it's supposed to be pretty good. All right, so what's your pick of the week, Jim?
Pick of the week is just going to be NCAA football 2014. Only because it's, you know, probably when college football starts, it's just the end of summer, you know, so you're sad that summer's ending, but it's still warm up, and you got the pageantry of college football, and it's only an American thing. The rest of the world has no clue why college football is a big thing. It's football.
Yeah, you are a college football. You bleed. What is it? You bleed red and gray.
Scarlet.
Scarlet. Excuse me.
Oh wait.
All right. And as I already mentioned, my pick of the week this week is At the Gates, which is going to be awesome. I can't wait. You're making a face like something's funny.
No, nothing. I got a text.
Sorry. All right, well, I think that's going to do it for the GameMinder Report this week. If you enjoy what we do, why not subscribe by hitting the button you see at the bottom of your screen if you're watching on YouTube, or from the subscribe now button on GameMinderReport.com.
And to view the show notes for this episode or to follow any of the games mentioned today, don't forget to visit GameMinderReport.com/38.
39. Gonna edit it right under you there. And don't forget to follow GameMinder on Twitter or Facebook, or get the app for your iPhone or Android phone, or come to GMX if you're in Cleveland on March 16th.
And finally, don't forget to buy all your games through the website or app. Every game you pre-order or purchase helps support this show and the service. Signing off for the GameMinder Report, I'm Jim.
And I'm Jeremy, reminding you, don't forget to play.